right. If you want to turn to Genesis chapter 32, we'll start there, and we're doing Genesis 32 and 33 today. I'll do this side. All right. So Jacob has been gone from home, and he, in his time away, things have changed a lot. And there's a verse in here that kind of, he realizes how much his life has changed. But he's coming back home now, and he's got a big family and a lot of animals, and he has to make amends with his brother. So that's kind of where we're heading right now. So let's go ahead and read. I'll start reading Genesis 32, and then maybe I'll let you all split up 33, but we'll start with 32. Genesis 32. Now as Jacob went on his way, the angels of God met him. Jacob said when he saw them, "This is God's camp." So he named the place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir in the country of Edom. He also commanded them, saying, "Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob." So right there he says, "Say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob." So he's trying to show kind of subservience to Esau. "I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen and donkeys and flocks and male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight." The messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and furthermore he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." So right there, he sent these messengers pretty much saying, "My lord Esau, I'm your servant Jacob. You're trying to butter him up a little bit." And how do you think he felt when the messengers came back? He's like, "Okay, how'd it go? What did he say? And they said, "Well, he's coming to meet you, and he's bringing 400 men with him." Not sure, Jacob's. We'll see how Jacob takes that. Verse 7. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people who were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 companies. For he said, "If Esau comes to the one company and attacks it, then the company which is left will escape." Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, you said to me, 'Return to your country and to your relatives, and I will prosper you.' I am unworthy of all the loving kindness and of all the faithfulness which you have shown to your servant. For with my staff only I crossed this Jordan, and now I've become 2 companies." So right there, he even realizes when he left about 20-some years ago, he was walking with his staff only. That's all he had, his clothes, whatever he carried, and his staff. And now 20 years later, he's got flocks and family, wealth, servants. Verse 11. "Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he will come and attack me and the mothers with the children. For you said, 'I will surely prosper you and make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which is too great to be numbered.'" So real quick, Jacob's prayer to God, how do you take that? Like these things he's saying, what's he almost kind of doing as he prays? Anyone? He's reminding him of his promises. Because why? Yeah, he's very scared, distressed. So and it's almost like he's reminding God and trying to maybe bolster himself too a little bit. Look, remember, you promised my descendants are going to be like the sand of the sea. So if he wipes me out, that can't happen. So you might want to protect me, just to protect your promise to me, okay? It's like he's, and again, trying to, he's kind of being humble here, too, at parts of it. When he says that, I'm unworthy of the loving kindness and faithfulness. What do you think what memory has happened in the past that he might be a little bit, feels like he's unworthy or humbled by? Like in relation to Esau, I guess. What has he done in the past to Esau? Yeah, he's deceiving, a schemer, kind of stole birthright and a blessing both. Yeah, I think he's maybe a little bit sorry about that. Okay. Verse 13, so he spent the night there. Then he selected from what he had with him a present for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, pass on before me and put a space between the droves. He commanded the one in front, saying, when my brother Esau meets you and asks you, saying, to whom do you belong, and where are you going, and to whom do these animals in front of you belong? Then you shall say, these belong to your servant Jacob. It is a present sent to my lord Esau. So again, your servant Jacob to my lord Esau. And behold, he is also behind us. Then he commanded also the second and the third, and all those who followed the drove, saying, after this manner you shall speak to Esau when you find him. And you shall say, behold, your servant Jacob is also behind us. For he said, I will appease him with a present that goes before me. Then afterward I'll see his face, perhaps he will accept me. So the present passed on before him, while he himself spent that night in the camp. Now he arose that same night and took his 2 wives and his 2 maids and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and he sent across whatever he had. Okay. So kind of picture that. And I wrote it down here. Where was it? Okay. So he has 200 female goats, 20 male goats. When we're filled up here in the morning, for worship service, what is our attendance? Like 160, 170. So picture all the people in here. That's how many, more than that, was how many female goats and male goats were sent. That's a lot of livestock. Boom. And he divides them up. So he says, okay, the 200 female goats and 20 male. So 220, send those with one guy, and they go. And so if you're Esau and you've got your 400 men, you walk along, 220 goats come, and where are you going? Well, these are for you. They're from your servant Jacob to his lord Esau. Okay, put them back here. Let's keep walking. And then 30 camels and their colts come. Because, see, Jacob had them divide up. He put space between each herd or drove. 30 camels. So, I'm Esau, and I'm walking my 400 men. Here come 200 plus goats. Okay, put them over here. Keep coming. Okay, a little bit a little bit later, 30 camels and their colts. Okay, put them over here. Keep going. 40 cows and 10 bulls. Okay. You see how he split it up? It's kind of like, what's your least favorite Christmas song of all time? Anyone have a least favorite Christmas song? The 12 Days of Christmas. Yeah. Because it talks about these 12 gifts on 12 different days, and it goes on forever, and no one knows anything beyond the 5 golden rings and the partridge and pear tree anyway, so you're, messing up the verses. I don't like that song. Well, and I think that's the point, yeah.
Okay, he gives them something and some space. Give them some time to, and then he gives them more. That to me maybe he's trying to wear them down a little bit.
It's Jacob, we call him like a schemer or whatever. He definitely plans things out. Not a bad idea to present it this way. Yeah. So 30 camels and colts, another space, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, 10 male donkeys. And who's going to have to kind of watch over all these animals now too? Yeah, the 4 minutes. So maybe Jacob's like, well, at least it'll take some of his guys, away to, I don't know that. That's just kind of what I was also thinking. But yeah, I do think he presented it this way so that it just felt like it's more, to kind of wear Esau down a little bit. Okay. And then, okay, so we're down to verse 24. And he sent his family on across the Jabbok River here. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When he saw that he had not prevailed against him, he touched the socket of his thigh, so the socket of Jacob's thigh was dislocated while he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." But he said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." He said, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him and said, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, for he said, "I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been preserved." Now the sun rose up on him just as he crossed over Peniel, and he was limping on his thigh. Therefore, to this day, the sons of Israel do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of Jacob's thigh in the sinew of the hip. Okay. Any thoughts on this?
Did he really wrestle with him? Or is this a spiritual battle? The socket, so he wrestled with him all night?
Until daybreak, yeah.
So they wrestled on the ground all night.
Yeah, and was it physical? I mean, like you said, the hip was dislocated, so it seemed like it was actually, that part was physical anyway. Anybody else have any comments about this? It's
You notice all through the scriptures where there's always this physical example of a spiritual battle. That's what, for us, in a way. I mean, I don't know if anybody else, but I wrestle sometimes with God and trying to get myself into check, if that makes sense. I struggle with something, and it is like, it's sort of a wrestling battle sometimes. Not because you're trying to go against God, it's just you need His help, and it's, we live in the flesh.
Yeah, and I don't think, we don't understand why, and that's what we wrestle with a lot of things. And I think that's everybody at some point has wrestled with some, yeah, usually things like that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and before Jacob, Abram at one point kind of wrestled with God when God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Didn't he kind of negotiate? I mean, he didn't completely accept what God was going to do. He said, well, what if there's 50? What if there's 40? Well, what if there's 30? And he just kind of kept pushing it, didn't he? In a way, that was a wrestle, I think. And so, yeah,
I think wrestling with God sometimes is spiritually is very, it's like Lane was saying, it's very, really.
Oh.
Sometimes you cry, you're angry,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I answered my own question.
It doesn't say really where the man came from. It says the man wrestled with him till daybreak.
Mm-hmm.
Did God come down and say, "Let's get ready to rumble"?
Yeah,
They go at it. It just says the man. Where did the man come from? So it makes you almost kind of wonder if it wasn't a spiritual battle
And why?
more than a physical battle.
yeah.
Similar to his youth when he had questions and had fear. Now he's become a man of independence, self-confidence, self-assured of himself. And now here comes what? So he is in fear again. He is questioning what is going to happen next. He has left a land with a staff, and now he has much. And then here
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, if you can, let me find it here. Genesis 27, just flip back just a couple chapters. Genesis 27, verse 41. I'll start with 41. So Esau bore a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near, then I will kill my brother Jacob." Jacob knew what Esau was, at least when they left, what Esau was planning. So that has to be in the front of his mind. So it's at least partly internal, but it looks like something physical also. Okay, anything else with that? Right. Yeah. So, and it said, at one point it does say man, and at one point it says, "I have seen the God face to face, yet my life has been preserved." And Israel does mean struggle with God. Okay. You probably can't see this very good, I know, but you might be able to get the point. Okay, so again, it's kind of one of those things where things kind of, a theme repeats itself in the Bible. So at one point in the Bible, Israel, the nation, is escaping Egypt. They get to the Red Sea, they're trapped. And here come the Egyptians. God parts the Red Sea, they get across, so they go from, it's kind of symbolic that they were slaves in Egypt, and death was coming for them, the Egyptians. Across water they go, and now they're, instead of slave, they're free. Instead of about to be killed, they have life. Later, when the nation of Israel, after their years of wandering, they get to the Jordan River. Again, the Jordan River is parted. And they're, instead of a wandering, homeless nation, they cross water into the promised land, into a home. Okay. Here, now this is in kind of not chronological order, but the point is, Jacob, so this creek, just so you can kind of picture it, pretend, this is a map, and you got the little sea up top, which eventually becomes the Sea of Galilee. They call it something else right now. You got the Jordan River going down. Down here's the Dead Sea or the Salt Sea, and there's a little brook that shoots off to the west called the Jabbok River, Jabbok Creek, and then they call it something else now. And Jacob was heading south, and Esau was coming north from Edom, and that's where they're about to cross, this little Jabbok River. So Jacob, it's almost symbolic. He sends all his family, all of his livestock across the river, and even helps them get across. And then he comes back, and he spends the night, it sounds like kind of by himself, except for the person he was wrestling with. So what happens between that night when he crosses the Jabbok River? He goes from being Jacob to Israel. Yeah, he has kind of a new beginning or something. And it kind of, to relate it to our current thing, I know that you guys probably can't see this, but I'll keep talking anyway. So water is a theme, and it's God doing something miraculous with the water, or some miraculous event happening near the water as part of that transition. So when we're baptized, there's water involved. So Israel went from a slave nation to a free nation. We go from sin to free. We go from being a slave to sin to free, sin to forgiven. The Egyptians were bearing down on them. They're going to kill them. They're about to die. They get across the Red Sea. Now they have life. So we go from basically a dead state or almost dead state to life when we're baptized. They were wandering when they crossed the Jordan. They had a home in their promised land. We're basically wandering homeless here, but with baptism, we're going to have a home of a promised land above. And then, so Jacob goes from Jacob to Israel. Whatever, put your name in here. We are Todd, we're whoever, we go to, after baptism, have our name written, our eternal name written in the book of life. So there's kind of some parallels with our life, and just there's that theme of water, and it's not the water itself, but it's what God does, the miraculous part that God does with the waters in the Old Testament and the water for us. So, okay. Okay, let's go ahead and read chapter 33, and then I want to go back and kind of say a few things about, again, how Jacob kind of sets this up. So how about, does anyone here want to read a little bit? That'd be great. Okay. There's 20 verses. Can you do 5, Eric? Okay, thanks. Okay. So what does Jacob do here to kind of, again, show that he is sorry? What's the act he does? He bows. And does he bow once? 7 times. Why do you think he bows? Why do you think he bows 7 times? Any thoughts? What's he kind of... Okay, let me set you up a little bit here, okay? So, could Jacob, what's his 2 options? If someone's coming to attack, what's your 2 options? It's the adrenaline response. What do? So I said, fight or flight. You go, I guess Jacob kind of has the 3rd option. He's hoping that he doesn't have to do either. But, so another option Jacob could have done is he could have fought. Now, why do I say that? He is kind of a fighter, because what did he just do all night long? Yeah. And I think Mark did a good job a few weeks ago of showing that, I'd always had this picture of Jacob as being kind of milquetoast, I think is the, just kind of this guy who hangs out in the camps and doesn't do a whole lot. But he moves some stones at one point. He wrestles. It sounds like he's actually a big guy also. Okay. Yeah, well, that's true. It must have gone back and joined it somehow, because I have some experience with dislocated hips with people I've worked with. You cannot you can't put weight on a dislocated hip. It just, the foot's, the whole leg is shorter, it's externally rotated or really internally rotated. It's just, there's nothing there to bear weight on. It just pushes up into muscle tissue. So, yeah, but yeah, you're right. He probably was like, I don't want to fight. I've been wrestling all night. But he does have servants, and that could have been one response. But I think the fact that he doesn't fight is he's sorry. I think he's really sorry for what he did to Esau, and he knows he was wrong to do it. And I think it's why he sent the goats and the camels and the cows. That's why he bows not once but 7 times. I think he's still a planner and a schemer, but he's not trying to get out of this. He's not saying let's run, although he does split them into 2 companies just in case. He wants some people to survive.
It says, bowing to the ground 7 times was the sign of respect given to the king.
That's what I had read too, was the Pharaoh, people would go to the Pharaoh and they'd have to bow 7 times. 7 is that complete number. Yeah, 7. Yeah.
And it must have been a symbolic number, obviously. Showing respect and I am sorry. It's humble
Yeah.
before his brother. I really am sorry.
Yeah, I'm not just sorry. I'm really, yes, yes.
That's why he was seeking God's blessing.
Right, yeah, yeah.
He wanted to be sure before he stood up and kept going. He wanted to be sure that where he needed to be and God was going to watch over him.
And I think it took some faith because he kept going forward instead of trying to. Left, I think 20 is what it seems to be. He worked for 7 years and then 7 more years. Yeah, but I looked that up too, and it seemed like most people think it's around 20 years ish. So, yeah. And that's another thing, because I thought, here in a chapter or two, 2 of his sons, Simeon and Levi, wipe out a whole city by themselves. So I'm like, oh, he's got some fighters, even his family, but at the oldest, they would only, be teenagers at this time. It would be my guess. So I don't think the kids would be too much help. But I do want to show something here real quick. Okay. And it involves participation. Yeah. Okay. So, and again, I know you won't be able to read this, but it's more for example. I'll try to write big. So his wives were Leah and Rachel. I'll just put Leah and R, okay? Tell me the sons that were born to Leah. Reuben. Who? Simeon. And I might abbreviate some of these, but Judah's 1, yep. Levi. I'll try to write it like this. There's 2 more to Leah. Into the alphabet letter Zebulun. And yeah, I heard it. It's Issachar. I'll just put, I won't spell it right. So this is easy. Who was born to Rachel? Rachel. Joseph, that's a short list. And eventually Benjamin. I don't think he's born yet, though, so we're going to leave him up, but that's right. So then there's also 2 maids. Zilpah is Leah's maid, so I'll just put a big Z here. And Bilhah, put a B here. Anyone remember there's 2 sons to each of those? Throw out a name and... Thanks. Okay, so Gad and Asher here on Zilpah's, and then Bilhah, somebody said Naph. We'll put Naph. And one more, Dan. Okay, so I'm doing this to show you something. How does he, he does a lot of things. I had 5 things that Joseph did to try to calm Esau down, and it, before he meets Esau. So give me one thing that he does. One thing that he does gifts. Before that, he sends a message. To my lord Esau, your servant Jacob, I'm coming. And then he sends the gifts. What's something he does in preparation in case Esau attacks? Okay, yeah, and you wonder how that looked too, but I think that's more like the livestock and the servants, okay? He does the gifts. In the chapter before, he does what? Yes, he prays. A long prayer to God, reminding God and maybe trying to reassure himself. And then the last thing he does with his direct family, he does what? As they're walking. So who is first in line of all? Well, of who's the very first person who's him? Joseph, because he goes the closest to Esau. He goes out in front. Okay, so it's Joseph. Jacob. Then who does he have? Bilhah and Zilpah. And their kids. Okay, so these kids are next line behind Jacob. Then who's next? Leah and these kids. And then who's furthest back? Okay, and just so everyone knows, why does he do that? Yeah, so if there is an attack, they've got the best chance of getting away, okay? What kind of message is that sending to the kids? I mean, really? You know, I mean, there's days where some of my sons are more popular with me and stuff than, the other ones. But, boy, this is really sending a message, okay? Okay, this is just, there's no biblical evidence for this. But, so we know Rachel and Joseph were furthest back. Then these 7 people. Just what you know about, how he feels about Rachel and Leah, who was probably closest to the front of these two? Yeah, I'm betting Zilpah, yeah. Now, okay, so then you have Gad and Asher with her, okay. Now, do most people here have a sibling at some point, or cousin? When you're little, do you remember this? If there was a little bit older one and a little bit younger one, you're watching TV, hey, you want to be cool? You want to be cool? To my little brother, I'm going to time you. I want to see how fast you are. You go and get me a pop, and I'll time you. You see, oh, you're fast, you're cool. Ready? Go. 1, 2, and then they run out of the room, and you stop counting. And when they come back, 33, 35, thanks. Wow, you're fast. Good job. You know, you play those games, older sibling to younger sibling. I wonder if Gad and Asher were up front, and Asher is the younger one of these two. We don't know about how much. But I wonder if Gad was like, hey, you want to be cool? You go closer to Dad. Oh, and Asher, and again, we don't know how old they were, but they were 20 or younger. I wonder if this little Asher was, I'm up here with Dad. I'm the most important. He loves me the best. So I just, I think, the problems they're going to have here in a couple chapters, Jacob doesn't help things, with the way he treats his family, and the troubles that Joseph is going to have to go through is evident by just, it was a different culture, I guess, back then, but whew, I don't know. Anyone else have any comments about that? Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because even though I said that about this is going to be trouble for Joseph, everything gets blessed eventually because what Joseph has to go through. That was part of God's plan all along, yeah. He uses our flaws, you're right.
Let's talk about Esau just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Esau decides it's time to visit my brother. I'm going to grab a few men, we'll grab 400 men. We're going to come and visit him. Now, the mindset for Esau may have been, I just wanted to show my brother that, I have something. I am no longer a nobody. I am now a powerful person. I'm not coming to attack, but Jacob doesn't see that. I remember a family member many years ago that was not doing well. Matter of fact, she was starving. And I remember she lives in a different state, faraway state, and he wanted me to come out and visit her. What she wanted to show me is all that she had, the beautiful gated community, the home, the golf course, et cetera, to show that I have made it. I think Esau's coming to say, hey, brother, all is well on my front, but Jacob doesn't know that.
Right.
He's not coming for the battle. He's coming to show his brother, I have also become a man or a community.
Yeah. I think that's right. One other thought I had maybe is later in the chapter, Esau says something along the lines of, we'll go with you. So I don't know if it was protection. He wanted, if this was a area where, bandits attacks happened, I don't know. But yeah, it could have been those things.
I was thinking verse 4 there, when you could see the 400 men, but it looked like Esau was running out in front, and he wanted to make amends.
Yeah.
And he ran up and embraced him, kissed him, and they both wept.
Yeah.
That's
I wonder what that looked like too, because Jacob's doing the bowing, and then Esau comes running, and what? Okay, but yeah, just the emotion there, isn't that's really powerful? How much, Esau also had some regrets too. I think, is what it's kind of showing that he feels sorry that he wanted to kill his own brother. Okay, so. Does anyone want to read the last little bit, and then we'll have a few minutes to talk about it? Anyone want to read? Or half of it? Okay. Go down to, how about 15, and I'll read the rest.
Then the servants drew near, they and their children, and bowed down. Leah likewise and her children drew near and bowed down. And last Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company that I met?" Jacob answered, "To find favor in the sight of my Lord." But Esau said, "I have enough. My brother, keep what you have for yourself." Jacob said, "No, please, I have found favor in your sight. If I have found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand, for I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me. Please accept my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dwelt graciously with me, and because I have enough." Thus he urged him, and he took it. Then Esau said, "Let us journey on our way, and I will go ahead of you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are frail, and that the nursing flocks and herds are a care to me. If they are driven hard for one day, all the flocks will die. Let my Lord pass ahead of his servant, and I will lead on slowly at the pace of the livestock that are ahead of me, and at the pace of the children, until I come to the land of Seir." So Esau said, "Let me leave you and some of the people who are with me." But he said, "What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord."
So, I can, okay, or you can finish up. You're doing good. Keep going.
So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. But Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and he built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, on his way to Padan Aram, and he camped before the city. And from the sons of Hamor and Shechem's father, he bought for 100 pieces of money, and the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent. There he erected an altar, which is called Eloi Israel.
And that means God, the God of Israel. So he's kind of showing thanks for getting through all this. And it's interesting, just a kind of a side note, in Joshua chapter 24 and verse 32, many years later, when Israel does make its journey out of Egypt, and they wander and they get into the promised land, they bring the bones of Joseph with them, because he wanted them to promise they would bury his bones in the promised land. And this is where Joseph gets his bones buried, this plot of land that his dad bought for 100 pieces of money, is where Joseph eventually gets back to being buried. So, okay, does anyone have anything they want to say about this story?
Going back to wrestling with God, did you read any commentaries on that?
Just some online stuff.
Yeah, well, it was interesting, and I don't know that, because, nobody's seen God and lived, but some of it said it was Jesus that actually came down and wrestled with him.
Yeah.
You could see, and said, because there's other times where he appeared, and it was interesting. I never got that out of it, but
Right.
they wrestled with him all day, and it was part of, he saw God, but not God the Father.
Right. The manifestation of God that we can see and interact with. Maybe.
It was some kind of,
Yeah.
either Jesus or an angel, some kind of.
Yeah, some type of presence of God was there, yeah. So, anything else? But yeah, I think, it's kind of interesting too that Jacob still, he says he's going to follow Esau on down, but then he kind of goes a different direction. But things seem to be okay between them too. So it's a really nice lesson about sticking with the long term. Whether it's our family or our church family, sometimes you just gotta, kind of like Jacob, you pray and you just keep on the journey because there can be reconciliation. I mean, that's kind of what it's all about as a Christian, is, we were the ones who kind of went away, and it's God who reconciles with us through Jesus. So that's the lesson we need to take when we're dealing with other people too, I think.
I think this back and forth between Jacob and Esau is interesting, because Jacob takes the birthright, takes the blessing, and Esau's refusing his gifts at first. I think all along,
Yeah.
this was their customary back and forth. No, politely refused.
When we did Abraham, remember when he bought the land from, I can't remember who it was, when he settled in the Promised Land area, it was that same back and forth. He was trying to buy land to bury Sarah, I believe. And it was like a back and forth like that too. But yeah, I think that's kind of their culture. Okay. All right. Thank you.